Hi everybody, Matt Bernier, Dan Illman taking a look back at the 99th running of the Jockey Club Gold Cup from Belmont Park last Saturday afternoon here for weekend wrap. Not a lot of speed signed on in this race early when you handicapped it. It's kind of how it played out. They break from the gate. We know where Diversify wants to be. That's forwardly placed, and Irad Ortiz did a perfect job.
He was the only speed in the race. You break from the inside on the turn. It is a tremendous advantage, especially for a horse with speed. And look at this. In a blink of an eye, he is 3 lengths clear, and he isn't going fast.
Ears are just pricked out there. You see the opening quarter, just a shade over 24 seconds flat, a half mile in 47 3. For a horse, a New York bred that is as talented as Diversify is, this is a walk in the park. Meanwhile, you've got the 3-year-old Pavel taking on Elders for the first time. He's sitting just a few lengths off of it. I think things get a little bit dicey here early on when Highland Sky really forces the issue up the inside. Maybe it puts him in a bit of an uncomfortable position, Pavel.
Well, first, I love what Irad does. He backs down the pace. Now he begins to feel the pressures coming. He's going to let it out again, and then the next thing you know, Diversify is clear. You're absolutely right about Pavel. Considering his relative inexperience, the in and among horses trip, I don't think is what Doug O'Neill was looking for. He is in between horses here, and boy, when we get into the stretch later, he's still in a dogfight.
Rally Cry is on the far outside, one of 3 in here for Todd Pletcher. Just in behind these 3 horses, you have Destin, the runner-up in the Belmont last year. Meanwhile, on the far side, way back, you're going to see Keen Ice start to get the engine cooking. But the problem is, with a horse like Keen Ice, we sound like broken records. He's always at the mercy of pace and trip, and when there's no pace and he's coming from that far back, boy, he's got a lot of work to do.
You throw a 24-second first quarter at Keen Ice coming from the back of the pack. I mean, he's trying to sustain a half-mile bid right now, and he is cooking right now with a 4-wide move on the outside. Diversify, though, is going to continue to spurt away, and I like the fact that Pavel is still fighting on after, for a second, it looks like he was outpaced on the turn.
Mario gets into him right here. He's between horses. He and Keen Ice actually bump a little bit. Meanwhile, here on the front, all by himself, Diversify, he digs in. I had some questions about the ultimate final 1/8 of a mile. No issue. He gets it very nicely.
Pavel and Keen Ice are just in a dogfight in second and third, and I wonder if they've got their minds on themselves and not worrying about Diversify. This is a struggle and a pitched battle with them, but all credit to Diversify. If you remember in his previous start, and this was something that you had talked about when you made Diversify a horse watch and out of the gate, he popped back to his left lead at the end. You thought that maybe the 1 1/8 would be fine. He stayed straight and strong and professional throughout. He ran a complete race, but he did get loose on the lead, and if they decide to go to the Breeders' Cup Classic, boy, there are speeds awaiting.
It's going to be a different story come 3 weeks down at Del Mar. Diversify pays $9.80 on the win end. Keen Ice, $2.70 to place. Rounds out your exacta for $1, comes back $12.90. Pavel, the 3-year-old in the field, if you want to say one of the 2 anyway, he rounds out your trifecta for 50 cents, comes back $25.25. Diversify, a 107 buyer speed figure for Rick Violet. This is a New York bred. You see all the connections here, the breeders, the owners, and whatnot. Irad Ortiz Jr. had a big day out there on Saturday afternoon. This horse, Diversify, really has done nothing wrong in his career. Now he's a Grade 1 winner.
9 of 10 in the exacta. He's won 70%. His speed usually just a tremendous asset. And he's really kind of come out of nowhere to be a Grade 1 winner of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Again, the Breeders' Cup Classic, you're going to be facing some of the best in the world, and they kind of have similar running styles. It's not like Gun Runner's going to be coming from where Keen Ice is. If Diversify gets to the lead in the Classic, he's going to have company, probably in the form of a collected, and not far behind, Gun Runner, Arrogate.
And that's the thing now. We talk about it. You can't take anything away from this effort.
Not at
here.
all.
A beautiful ride. But boy, the water, not only is the water going to get deeper, but strictly from a race shape standpoint, he's going to be taking some heat throughout, you would assume.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no way he's getting a lead like this in the Breeders' Cup Classic. With all of the other speeds, with all of the money on the line, Diversify. This reminds me of the race that Hainesfield won. Remember in New York, but Hainesfield won the Jockey Club Gold. He beat Blame, but he got away with a nice, easy lead that day, and he got it done. And they showed up in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and all of a sudden, Hainesfield isn't loose on the lead anymore, and Blame got a better setup and a better trip. And maybe that's how you should handicap these horses when they show up in the Classic. I'm not saying that a horse like Keen Ice is going to turn the tables, but I would prefer the way the Breeders' Cup Classic, and we're how many weeks out still from the Classic, shaping up for a horse like Keen Ice. Horse is always going to get a puncher's chance. He's going to get some pace. You know he wants the 1 1/4. He'll come running late. I wonder if they show up in the Classic, if Keen Ice Maybe not winning the Classic. That's the better of Diversify.
You have always been a champion of Keen Ice, saying that, you know what, he's not as bad as people make him out to be. He's actually.
I don't know how people could make him out to be bad.
Well, he's got the reputation of being just a clunk-up special. But you've always made the case that he's much better than that. And you know what? After this race, to me, this was probably the best race he's run, I think anyway, of this calendar year, and arguably going back to maybe the Travers when he beat American Pharoah.
I had no arguments with this race. It's just a shame that he has no speed. So he's always going to be behind the 8-ball, and I think you put it perfectly. He's always going to be at the mercy of pace and race luck. And he came with his big 4-wide move, and it looked like for a second that move stalled, and then that stamina kicked in again. He was getting away from Pavel at the end of the race. He was never winning, but it was a good, solid performance, and in a race like the Classic where there's pace, he's just going to be allowed to kick back. And when he makes his run, it's not like, this race where Diversify was hardly stopping. The pace setters are going to be coming back to him. In the Classic, it's a question. Is Keen Ice good enough? Personally, I don't think he is.
I don't know about you. I'm very bullish on Pavel's chances as a 4-year-old. I think he's very, very talented, and I think this race right here proved that he's got a little bit of metal in him, that he's not going to completely wilt. And maybe we saw a little bit of that in the Jim Dandy, which was his second lifetime start as well.
We talk about it on the stakes previews on Out of the Gate. You talk about it on your show all the time. We like it when trainers treat horses like good horses. And Doug O'Neill has shown nothing but extreme confidence in Pavel. He could have run him in much easier spots than the spots he picked out for him. The Jim Dandy to run against the Derby and the Preakness winners in what? Start number
2.
2. Then, the Smarty Jones was a little bit of a cutback in class. He deserved it. He ran away with that field. And his first start against older horses, you're going to run him 1.25 miles against legitimately good horses in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I like the moxie he showed in the stretch. He was not intimidated when Keen Ice was brushing off of him. He was chasing this pace. He's good. And it'll be interesting to see if that's it for the end of this year or if they decide to chase another prize.
That was going to be my next question. I'm saying, as a 4-year-old, do you think that they push on and try to get into a race like the Breeders' Cup? I don't know about the Classic, but, could he run in a race like the Mile?
Well, is he going to run in a race like the Pegasus? I think that Mr. Redham's got the money.
Absolutely.
Doug O'Neill would probably have no issues running him there. I don't see why that track or that distance would have any sort of problem. He's not going to have to worry about Arrogate now that we know that he is going to be retired to Juddmonte after the Breeders' Cup Classic. If Pavel sits back and just watches the Classic and just watches them beat the heck out of each other in that race, all of a sudden we've got a fresh horse towards the early part of next year, and I wonder if that's the goal for them.
Good Samaritans, is it time to go back to the turf?
Yes, because with this running style, he's with Keen Ice at the back of the pack, and you want to talk about Keen Ice being a grinder. Good Samaritan really is a grinding turf sort, and he won the Jim Dandy, and I think our colleague Mike Beer is right in hindsight, looking at the Jim Dandy and saying, the pace didn't look fast on paper. But the way that race kind of set up, where they all were all in with 3 furlongs to go, and Good Samaritan was sitting at the back licking his chops, that's the kind of race, that's the kind of setup that he's going to need. And I just think that at this point on dirt, he's going to be outrun in most of these races. On turf, maybe in a tight pack, his late kick could be the best kick. On dirt, I'm not sure it's the best kick against some of these salty older horses.
Destiny, we've always questioned his overall quality. Highland Sky, this was an experiment. The horse that we need to talk about is Rally Cry. On his best day, he can run a giant race. The problem is you just don't know when it's going to come.
He runs a giant race when circumstances are in his favor. The race against Gunrunner, I still believe in that race where he was, second at Saratoga?
Second.
I still don't think they were able to win that race. I think that they were very, very surprised how easily Gunrunner dispatched the uncoupled stablemate of Rally Cry, Neolithic. Johnny tried to go with Gunrunner when Gunrunner went after Neolithic. He couldn't, and he was like, well, let's just save something and run second. I think this race might have been at least the cracking point for Rally Cry because, listen, he was chasing Diversify, he was chasing Pavel, and he was done on the turn. Hopefully he's okay. You see a race like this, and it's kind of the outlier because he's mostly been a consistent horse, and you hope that nothing went wrong.
Really interesting race. Wasn't a giant field, but you had Diversify, who looked like he was lone speed on paper. That's how it played out. He gets the job done in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. It sounds like it's on to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Guess what? The waters get deeper, and the pace scenario gets a lot hotter early on.